We heard from Tudor Dixon this morning on All Talk. She is fired up as the polls are tightening in the race for governor. It has people asking, where is Governor Gretchen Whitmer? Why isn't she coming on the show or as many interview shows as possible as this race tightens with just 3 weeks left? Could she be distracted by her fundraising trips to California to raise money for more TV commercials or her visits with Joe Biden? Listen to this. There is a new rising star in the polls of who will be the Democratic nominee for president in 2024. That rising star is Michigan's very own Gretchen Whitmer. Only about 38% of people want Joe Biden to run for re-election. While Joe Biden says he wants to run, people are still planning for his mind to be changed. Gretchen Whitmer was ranked 8th most likely to be the nominee in polls a few months ago. Today, she is at number 4. And before you say 4 isn't very high on the list, keep in mind she is behind Joe Biden, who's the president, and Kamala Harris, who's the vice president. So she's right up there behind those two. Joining us now is Roshini Rajkumar, political strategist, attorney, and host of the podcast, The Crisis Files. Good morning, Roshini. How are you?
Good morning, Kevin. And about your governor, all I have to say is you go, girl. I mean, wow.
Wow. Are Democrats nationwide falling in love with Gretchen Whitmer? And if so, why?
Well, here's the thing. As I look at this latest ranking, the Washington Post, I mean, again, how scientific is it? I don't know. They come up with their things when President Biden is number 1 on that list. I also question the list because he's definitely left the door open that he may not be the candidate for the Democrats in 2024. But when you look at who's ahead of her, Kamala Harris, who also, to me, very surprising, even on this list, that she would beat out your governor. So here's the thing. In this day and age where optics really matter and also being strong and confident in the decisions you make really matters. So regardless of the different times, like I'm going to do a compare and contrast between your governor and Florida's governor, two very different people, two very different parties. But when each of them makes a statement, sticks to it, and really their followings go with them, then they make some splashes. And I think that's part of the reason Gretchen Whitmer is number 4 on this list. And I wouldn't be surprised if she keeps going higher, Kevin.
I should mention that Joe Biden is first. Pete Buttigieg is actually second, then Kamala Harris, and then Gretchen Whitmer, which is pretty interesting. I don't have a problem with President Biden being first because if he says he's going to run, it's going to be really hard to push him out. If he insists on it, if they can talk him out of it, then that would be something different. But to bypass Kamala Harris for Pete Buttigieg is interesting. I want to go back to Gretchen Whitmer for a second, though. For her to have a chance to be the nominee in 2024, she has to win this election right in front of her in 3 weeks in Michigan. She can't lose this election and then still stay in the top 5 nominees nationally, can she?
No, let me just say that would, quote unquote, screw her chances. So I think she would definitely fall off some lists. She's got to win her own race that's right ahead of her. And actually, if she does, that would really strengthen the case because she's got a couple years to both be the governor, come from this great position of strength and this role, this title of a swing state governor, and then she can be running at the same time, right? She can kick off that campaign next year or whatever the case may be. But, the optics on that, the messaging, the narratives that would come around it, provided there's no scandal waiting to happen. Kevin, we are in October, and you've heard of that October surprise. You never know what could happen in the last days.
We see it every week. Every week there's another October surprise somewhere.
Especially in Michigan.
It's crazy, yeah. So, well, before the debate, Whitmer and Dixon had their first debate. They'll have another one next week. Before the debate, Gretchen Whitmer was up by 11 or 12 points, depending on which polls you looked at. After the debate, a new poll by the Michigan Association of Broadcasters, which came out today, narrowed that right down to 4%, which is in the margin of error. Tudor Dixon is out everywhere now. She's on Facebook holding rallies. She's coming on the radio show. She'll talk to any voter that will listen to her. Gretchen Whitmer is kind of relying on commercials and press releases announcing new projects that are happening. She is giving some money to police. She's doing other things like that. Does Gretchen Whitmer need to get out there? Do people notice in the last 3 weeks? Are they paying that much attention that they notice who's out working and who's maybe hiding?
Kevin, the final images really matter. So I would definitely recommend, if Gretchen Whitmer wants to sort of go toe-to-toe with Dixon, that she's got to get out there. And she can't just rely on ads because, look, ads, I mean, people turn out ads. I go and get, a refill on my ice cream or something when the ads come on. So, at the end of the day, getting out there, being seen, being heard in her own words at her own events, or showing up. I mean, she's got the power of the office right now. That's one of the, you shouldn't be spending money on that. That is the most valuable asset she has right now. So she should absolutely be getting out there. And in this case, if you see post that debate, the margin has gotten smaller, then that's definitely a signal and should be a warning sign to Gretchen Whitmer that she cannot count on every vote. She actually needs to earn every vote.
Well, yeah, I agree. If she loses the run for Michigan governor, she's not going to have much chance at becoming a president one day. When you look at back to this poll of who will be the nominee, people don't want President Biden to run again. They feel like he's too old or he's not doing a good enough job. And that's Republicans and many Democrats. Do you think, what do you think? Do you think President Biden will run again in 2 years?
Nothing surprises me these days, Kevin. I hope he does not. I would say, in light of also some of the headlines coming out about his own family issues and Ukraine and the different things about possible payments and all of this, and Biden being enriched because of that, and it got, scuffled and hidden. That's a whole other layer of nasty that he might not want. And if he does declare that he'll run again, you better believe the fangs, the claws, everything will come out. And if there is something to that story, it will get out there. So one of the best things that he could do right now is listen to some of the advisors, which we're hearing behind the scenes. People are talking with him. Be that elder statesman. You're going to be 80 years old. Be the one who gets the credit for succession planning for the Democratic Party, because God knows neither party is really good at that right now. And he could really go out on a good narrative if he tries to support the next people in his party. Now, his vice president is Kamala Harris. She has some of her own issues, so it would be also difficult for him to say, I'm going to support someone else and not my own vice president. So either decision here opens up some different cans of worms.
It is interesting that Kamala Harris comes up third on this poll and Pete Buttigieg too. What do you make of that? Shouldn't Kamala Harris automatically be the default number two?
No. If the Washington Post has any credibility, they would look at the fact that she has not been popular. She did not. And again, we don't expect the same level that we expect from a president, from a vice president, but she also said she was going to do certain things because she's half black, half Asian. I think there were a lot of people out there in the electorate who had hoped she would really make this a position and be that vice president like no other vice president. She has not been that. I am not surprised about Pete Buttigieg. He's very popular. He's a really great campaigner. His personal story is very inspiring to a lot of people. So actually, he, to me, on this list at least, is the one to watch, in addition to your governor, Gretchen Whitmer. I can't even understand why Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders would be on this list.
Yeah. Number 5 was Gavin Newsom. 6, Amy Klobuchar. 7, Bernie Sanders. 8, Elizabeth Warren. 9, Roy Cooper. And 10, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. Roshini Rajkumar, appreciate you coming on and sharing your insight. As always, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Kevin.
You're listening to All Talk on WJR.